What's up, comic book fans? Welcome back to the M.I.B. Master Toy Museum. I'll be your curator today. Guys, we are back here in the museum in our comic book section and found some fantastic comic books that we purchased from Keith's Comics. And it's just I'm a huge Daredevil fan. Now, he doesn't check all the boxes for me as really wanting to be just like Daredevil, but he's pretty close, because outside of the blindness and the built-in radar that came with it, he's the perfect superhero. He's the perfect superhero. He's the one that I would most like outside of Batman and maybe Moon Knight. He's the one that I really would like to be like. Just all of his gifts, his abilities, and Daredevil has always been one of my favorite comic books to read growing up. As you can see, we're looking at a Daredevil comic book. This is vintage from 1970. Look at the price. Issue number 60 is 15 cents. Guys, if you're just joining us, welcome to the M.I.B. Master Toy Museum. I'm your curator for the day, and we are hanging out in the museum, and we're just reading comic books. And nothing beats a good comic book. Unmasked a Man Called Crime Wave. This is the comic book art of Gene Colan, one of my all-time favorite comic book artists. He did the Tomb of Dracula series and a few other series. He did some work for DC Comics as well. Guys, you would have to be here to really take in and enjoy this old vintage comic book smell. Fantastic. Showdown at Sea. Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. And we crack open our comic books here. Stan Lee, the editor. Gene Colan. I thought so. I mean, I know Gene Colan's artwork a mile away. Always just been a huge fan of Gene Colan. Let's get you a year of this comic book. January 1970. Guys, this book is as old as I am. But the artwork is splendid. You were allowed to just go back into another time when you're reading these comic books. You would become the superhero. Seems like Daredevil is doing battle with some bad guys on the docks. This is another cool thing about these old time capsules, I call them, these vintage comic books. You can see all of the old ads that were listed inside. Guys, what do you think of our comic book? Our Daredevil comic book. Vintage comic book. Issue number 60. All the way from 1970. my spare time, this is what I do. I just I'll come down to the museum, and I think a subscriber said it best in one of our earlier videos. It's, you know, you're like a kid in a candy store. You come down here and you start to clean up here and look around, and before you know it, you're not getting much work done because you're checking out all of the action figures and reminiscing and going back in time. And that's, with my museum, that's exactly how I feel. And I just want to share that, you know, that type of feeling with you guys. We've all been there, hanging out, reading our comic books, drinking our Pepsis or whatever candy we got from the corner store. Comic books were for me growing up, definitely was our video games. It was everything. It was our escape, our means of entertainment. You know, to be able to have the latest issue of Daredevil or Spider-Man or Thor or the Incredible Hulk, that was worth its weight in gold. We just wanted to kind of share this with you. We will definitely be getting more vintage. I only can do vintage, guys. More modern, I prefer vintage comic books. It's what I grew up on. Guys, we like your opinions and your thoughts on this beautiful comic book. Do you collect vintage comic books? What's your favorite titles? Daredevil, Spider-Man, Hulk, or is it DC? Batman, Superman? We want to know all of that. We want to share this with you. Let's turn it around. You guys want to see the back of it? This book's in fantastic condition. The old draw like an artist advertisement. I got this book from Keith's Comics, and it only cost me, I believe this book cost me $3. $3. So it was well worth it. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. Hanging out with Daredevil, the man without fear. We have more vintage comic book goodness headed your way. Stay tuned, guys. You know the routine. God bless. And keep collecting.